An all-new Eye on the Bay in HD starts right now.
Welcome aboard the Frank Quan. I'm Brian Hackney, and tonight, Eye on the Bay takes you to an adventure into the Bay Area's past. We'll visit a remote cove in San Pablo Bay where once upon a time, hundreds of these beautiful Chinese junks once sailed the bay. It's a 1,500-acre park that, even if you've heard the name, you probably don't know what's here. Only 30 minutes from downtown San Francisco lies a fishing village from the 19th century when it was home to almost 500 Chinese immigrants. You'll meet a man who's lived and fished for shrimp here his whole life. And later we'll show you what that life in this fishing camp was like. China Camp, now home to a museum with remnants from San Francisco's past. Once over 20 fishing villages dotted the shores of San Francisco and San Pablo Bay. Now, only one is left. Our tour of China Camp is going to be conducted by curator historian John Muir. When did this actually begin as a settlement?
Yeah, well, the earliest records we have really are somewhere around 1870. This was one of the earliest and then eventually became one of the largest of the local Chinese shrimp fishing villages in the Bay Area.
And would they catch a lot?
Back in those days, this bay was just brimming with shrimp. It was a multi-million-dollar business.
How many people were actually living in the village?
Yeah, at the height of it, about 1880 or so, there were about 350 to 400 people living, complete with a barber shop, a market, women and children and everything. It began to be a kind of a burgeoning village. And all the efforts here were pretty much run through Chinatown in San Francisco. It's really kind of an extension of industry in San Francisco's Chinatown.
And so 1880, things began to decline? I mean, what happened?
Well, 1882 was the Chinese Exclusion Act, which basically forbade immigration of any Chinese into the country. Well, that pretty much put the stop to the burgeoning village here. Eventually, 1910 or so, the Chinese method of fishing was curtailed. They passed a bunch of laws that forbade the use of the Chinese bag net. And just about 1910 is when engines were coming, so the Chinese sailing shrimp junks that they were using here started to be replaced by motorboats. This is the only place in the country where there was a fleet of Chinese fishing junks. Here, Frank Quan's father, Henry Quan, and a couple of his brothers would continue to process the shrimp, and the dried shrimp fishery didn't really pay the bills as much. So the Quan family opened a store, a cafe, where you could buy shrimp, get delicious shrimp cocktail at the time, and Frank still runs that today. But he is really the kind of tail end of a legacy here, and we'd all love for him to live forever, but it's a real special time here while Frank's still around.
Well, when people come here, I mean, they can still see a little slice of what it used to be like.
Right.
Well, let's go take a look.
Sure. It's obviously a place where things have changed over time quite a bit. One of the biggest events in China Camp in the middle of this, in the 1950s, was the filming of a John Wayne film, very remarkable, very dramatic, with Lauren Bacall, called Blood Alley.
Blood Alley?
Yeah, and it was...
Lauren Bacall was standing where we're
pretty much standing right here. They dressed up the place quite a bit. They even built a kind of a faux Chinese castle up on the hill with some huge stairs.
So John Wayne and Lauren Bacall were here.
Right, yes they were.
Yeah, but Eye on the Bay's here now. So the shrimp would come down the pier and into the shed?
Yep, they pretty much hustle them in, and they're looking to produce is dried shrimp. And the first step of that, though, is to boil the shrimp. But you can see it's a wood vat. It's actually the original. We've rebuilt it a little bit. It's got some fire that comes up underneath it and gets this whole vat boiling. Get the shrimp in there, boil it for a little bit, and then pull it out and sort it. And this is an old-time sorter that would actually shake the shrimp, and the good-sized shrimp would drop right down, and they'd collect it up in baskets.
And what was next after the boiling and the sorting?
Right, well, once they'd get their smaller shrimp out from the sort, they'd bring them out to spread them out on their racks like this, under the sun to get them good and dry.
So then we'd bring the dried shrimp from the trays and from the hillside in here?
Right, that's the shrimp crusher.
The shrimp crusher?
Right, this is the first phase of separating the shell from the meat. You want to try turning this baby on? I've never seen this run.
You haven't? Okay, well step back then. The switch is right here. Let's see if it goes. Jesus. Oh my God. Belt driven.
Wow, that's I didn't expect that. Basically, they take the big mass from the crusher and pour it up into this chute here. Pour all the shrimp up, and then set their baskets back down. And in fact, there'd be 2 baskets, each one different. And they'd crank the engine up, a little safer this time. And basically, it's a giant fan, hand crank fan, that blows through and sorts the two. The heavier shrimp fall out first into a basket, so that'd get their shrimp meat. And then the lighter shell would fall out here.
And then from here, it would go out to the world.
From here, they're done. They'd sew it up in burlap sacks, load it on their boats, and then the dried shrimp, again, would be shipped out to Chinatown, and then from Chinatown on liners and cargo vessels overseas.
That's how they literally cranked it out.
Yeah, that's right.
Back then, in the 1870s, would we look out here in the bay and just see this filled with shrimping junks?
Yes, and it would be quite a striking image because the sails are very uniquely Chinese, stained red, and with, it's kind of like a fan. It's a batten lug sail, a Chinese junk sail.
The 20th century dawns, and these boats replace the older boats.
Right, yeah, this is more the modern boat used to tow a net behind it to catch the shrimp.
And so the Chinese junks disappeared. They were just gone during most of the 20th century, is that right?
That's right,
okay.
Yeah. They were by 1910.
But now, one has emerged.
Right.
And tell me the story of the Grace Quan.
Right, well that one was built and reconstructed mostly from archaeological evidence. There were the remains of 2 of the shrimp junks just a little north of here. And from that and historic photographs, we repieced the design. And in 2003, right here at China Camp, in the site where they would have built theirs, we built the replica, Grace Quan.
The Grace Quan is named for the mother of the last surviving Chinese shrimper who still lives at China Camp, Frank Quan. Coming up, we'll meet Mr. Quan and take a ride on board the Grace Quan. You hear that? How could you miss it? Welcome back. I'm Brian Hackney. This is the shrimp boat that you would have seen on the San Francisco Bay back in the 1920s. They would have been all over this bay catching shrimp. They're gone now for the most part, except this one that's been beautifully maintained. But there is a man who remembers what it was like to go out on these boats. His name is Frank Quan, and he's up at China Camp. Mr. Quan, for me to make this clear in my own mind, have you been here your entire life?
I was gone about 10 years. I was in the service.
Okay, so you grew up here?
Yes, we all grew up here, yeah.
What was it like when you were a kid?
We were shrimping almost 5 days a week. And of course, the shrimpers were fishing almost every day, you know.
Yeah. How many pounds of shrimp at the peak would be pulled out out of here?
Well, you'd make one 30-minute drag up, say what we call the Sisters, the 2 islands down the far end. Make one drag, you get 400 pounds.
400 pounds?
One drag. The Chinese, when they had their nets here in the late 1800s, they were taking 2 million pounds a year.
2 million pounds a year?
Yes.
How much is left?
Right now, it's almost to the bottom.
What happened? Why did there used to be so many shrimp? How come there aren't any now?
It's a water diversion. The water is almost as salty as the ocean.
That's the problem.
It's over twice as salty as normal.
What's it like living out here now?
It's fine. It's fine.
At night now, are you the only one here at night?
Yes,
Wow.
A
little lonely, or?
No, we get used to it.
What was it like when they shot the movie here?
They built a stairway down a hill, and then they had a riverboat out on the end of the dock.
Was John Wayne a nice guy? Did you meet him?
Oh yeah, he was nice. He and my mom got along real well, yeah.
I hope they know what they're up against.
They're Chinese.
What was your mom like?
Well, she was. You probably saw the picture. She smoked a cigar. I know you saw the picture on the wall in there. But she was a big woman, give you a big heart.
This cafe originally opened in the 1930s?
Yeah, about the 30s, yeah.
Okay.
Those days, they, of course, when the two gals ran it, they had it open every day, you know.
Yeah.
And late in the evening. Now we close it at 5, of course. But
Yeah.
it was pretty wild those days. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was.
Mr. Quan, tell us, these houses, who did they belong to? Were they your family's homes?
Yeah, my aunt lived in the house, this house here, which I live in now.
Yeah.
And the next house, my mom lived there, and my sister.
You talk about a small work commute. I mean, your aunt lived in this house.
Yes.
She'd walk to work right over there to where she ran the cafe.
Yeah.
So that was her commute in the morning.
Yeah, and my mother the same thing.
Were you a little fellow running around here when you were a boy? This was your playground?
Yeah, oh yeah, they had the whole thing. Yeah, they had. Mom had a gate on the dock, so I couldn't get out on the dock when we were kids. Scared to death we could go drown ourselves.
So you've been out this pier many a time.
Lots of times. Yeah.
And so your family's been around here for more than 120 years.
Yeah.
What did the shrimp taste like back then? I mean,
Probably the best shrimp. Actually, probably the best shrimp you can ever get tangled with. Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
The best shrimp in the world, you think?
I would say so. I've eaten a lot of it.
It's amazing to me that in his 80s, Frank Quan still lives on at his boyhood beach. Just imagine that. Every evening, he's the only person out here after sunset, isolated, listening to the sounds of the same waves that he heard as a child here on San Pablo Bay. You know, a lot of that stuff really is fascinating, and you can come out here for yourself and learn about a lot of great things and have some fun learning about it too, as we will find out from Park Ranger Cecilia Rejas. This is the visitor center.
Yes, it is, and there's a lot to see in here. It's a great place to start off if you come to China Camp. Well, this is a sampan. It's a type of boat that was seen offshore in the bay right out here, San Pablo Bay. This is a roller that was used for crushing the shells of the shrimp.
Look at that.
That was used to blow the shells off of the shrimp once they had been crushed.
So you've got the visitor center, and then what else can you do when you come out to China Camp?
As far as mountain biking, hiking, equestrian use, there's swimming. It's a great place also for bird watching. Great place for picnicking, for families, for children to come out, run along the beach. And it's so accessible because we're only about 5 miles from downtown San Rafael.
Right.
And it's kind of a well-kept secret. A lot of people don't know that China Camp is out here.
Still to come, hop aboard this beautiful Chinese shrimping junk, named after the mother of China Camp native Frank Quan. Welcome back to Eye on the Bay. I'm Brian Hackney. As we wrap up our look at what once was a thriving business in the San Francisco Bay Area, the shrimping industry. And we are going to wrap up this show by climbing aboard John Muir's master's thesis. Right there. John?
Hey there, natural born sailor.
Wow. This was actually your master's thesis.
Yeah, this is the boat we recreated from photographs and archaeology here at the park.
This is pretty much a replica of what we would have seen around the turn of the last century, 1900?
Right, yeah, exactly. There are a lot of things with the boat that make it a good shallow water vessel. For instance, the rudder back over here, raises and lowers, and you can set it at different depths. So essentially you can sail this large 40-foot vessel in 2 feet of water.
No kidding, wow.
All right, we'll see how we do here.
The sail's gorgeous. What did you make the sail out of?
The sail is the original material of canvas, cotton canvas, and it's been treated the traditional way 100 years ago, tan bark.
How big is the boat?
Boat's 42 feet overall. She only is only about 3 feet deep.
Wow, so you can go into very shallow water.
Right, which is mostly where they would be doing their work. Occasionally they would make this very crossing to bring their dried shrimp to the warehouses in San Francisco for export.
And these boats, even in China, are essentially gone.
Yeah.
John, how maneuverable is this? turn on a dime?
Maybe a quarter is a little more accurate.
This being an idea of yours that began on paper, now that you're actually standing on the real thing, what does that feel like? You must be kind of proud of yourself.
Yeah, it's very gratifying, and it's also, as a sailor, that's particularly a thrill to get to sail something that very few people have, and to try to bring back a sort of lost art of sailing a Chinese shrimp junk here in San Francisco Bay. That's really gratifying.
And that'll do it. That'll wrap up our tour aboard the Grace Quan and our look at China Camp. To see how you can look at both for yourself, log on to our website, cbs5.com/Eye in the Bay. For tonight, I'm Brian Hackney. We're going to sail off into the sunset. See you next time.